Have you ever felt your heart clench as you watched a child being mocked, only to find yourself too frozen to speak? That hollow dread isn't just a moment, it's a mirror revealing the wounds we all carry. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll learn why embracing this pain can be the key that finally sets you free. You step into the living room and freeze. Across the carpet, a child's small laugh is drowned beneath the harsh bark of adult laughter, mocking, cruel. Your heart falls silent, chest tightening until you can't draw breath. In that moment, you feel an emptiness so vast it echoes, a hollow space where compassion should live. You know this paralysis all too well, the sting of shame that tells you silence is safer than speaking up. I know what it is to stand rooted in fear while innocence is ridiculed. Stay with me through this discomfort. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why your own pain, the very thing you've tried to escape, is actually the key that will set you free, shattering the comfort of common myths. You've probably heard it 1,000 times. Just think positive. On paper, it sounds harmless, maybe even helpful. But here's the brutal truth. When you're staring down real fear, those 3 words aren't a lifeline. They're a noose tightening around your throat. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a deep canyon, the wind howling beneath you. You look down and feel your legs go limp. Then someone hands you a poster that says, "You can do it. Just believe you can fly." How well does that poster hold up when gravity is roaring louder than any motivational pep talk? Why think positive amplifies anxiety? When anxiety kicks in, your brain lights up with alarm signals, every cell screaming, "Danger," telling yourself to think positive. Doesn't silence the alarms, it adds a new layer of distress. Now, you're not only terrified of what's happening, but you're also failing at being positive. Anxiety becomes a double bind. You're scared, and then you're ashamed of being scared. Your mind whispers, "Real people don't feel like this." And suddenly, you're sinking in self-reproach. Most self-help gurus will chalk this up to resistance or claim you're not trying hard enough. But the truth is far simpler and far more insidious. They're offering you a band-aid for an open wound. Pushing positive thinking feels good in an Instagram quote, but in the deep halls of your psyche, it only slams the door on what's truly happening inside. Just overcome your fear, turns into self-blame, and then comes the next wave. You need to fight it. Face your fear head on. On the surface, that sounds courageous, until you realize you're being sold the idea that if you don't conquer your fear, you're the failure. Every moment of hesitation becomes proof of weakness. Every skipped therapy appointment, every restless night, every bead of sweat in a social situation becomes ammunition for your inner critic. I've stood in that battlefield. I've replayed the tape. Why didn't you show up? Why couldn't you just say hello? What's wrong with you? And the knife twists deeper when experts tell you it's all in your head. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But fear isn't only in your head. It's etched into your body, stored in your muscles, lodged in your bones. You can't simply will it away any more than you can will away a broken leg by chanting affirmations. You've done everything right, yet you're betrayed. Here's the harsh revelation. You've followed every rule, checked every box, and yet the system, the very system designed to heal you, has betrayed you. You devoured books on mindset. You sat through workshops on mindfulness. You nodded along in therapy sessions. And still, something inside you keeps pulling the emergency brake. You did everything right, but you were sold a lie. Think about that. Everyone around you parrots the same slogans. They dazzle you with hopeful promises. Snip your negative thoughts and your life will bloom. Hack your brain, hack your destiny. Yet nothing changes. Your fear doesn't shrink, it mutates. It finds a new hiding place, your relationships, your health, your career. This isn't your fault. You weren't lazy or weak. You were misled by a comforting illusion that quick fixes exist for deep wounds. Why ignoring the wound only makes it fester. In a world obsessed with surface-level solutions, ignoring the depth of your pain seems easier. I'll focus on the positive and sweep the rest under the rug. But every time you bury that wound, it grows roots. It seeps into the cracks of your life, poisoning your choices. When you refuse to name your fear, it shapes your path in ways you can't predict. You settle for a job that drains you because the leap to something new feels too risky. You stay silent in relationships that diminish you because confrontation triggers panic. You numb out with food, alcohol, screens, anything to dull the ache of unspoken terror. Here's the paradox. Freedom isn't found by leaping over the chasm of fear. Freedom is found by stepping down into it, by shining a light on its contours, by tracing its edges with curiosity. Only then can you see that the chasm isn't infinite. It has walls, ledges, and hidden passages, paths that lead you out, not around. Unveiling the hidden traps. Let's expose some of the biggest traps where well-meaning advice goes to die. 1. The gratitude obsession. You've been told to write 3 things you're grateful for each morning. That's fine, until you feel guilty for not being grateful enough, until gratitude becomes a rigid checklist that denies your real experience of emptiness. 2. The comfort zone mantra. Growth happens outside your comfort zone. But what if your comfort zone is precisely where your wounded self can gather strength? Sometimes comfort is the safety barricade you need before you can rebuild. 3. The silver linings fallacy. Every cloud has a silver lining. It sounds poetic until you realize some storms leave scars that never fully heal, and that's okay. Forcing hope can turn genuine sorrow into shame. What you've been missing most of these methods paper over the cracks. They treat the symptom, painful thoughts, uneasy body, without ever touching the root, the unmet parts of you that cry out for recognition. When you finally see the truth, it's as if someone turns on the lights in a darkened room. You realize how long you've tiptoed around your own interior, afraid to hush the noise and listen. But there's something even scarier than admitting your fear, you might think, and you'd be right, because when you admit it, you also admit you must face it. You must hold it in your hands, look at its shape, know its weight. That moment of confrontation, standing nose to nose with your own terror, is where the real work begins. But there is something even scarier. Stay with me now, because beyond the fear of naming your terror lurks a greater threat, the peril of living half alive. When you let fear steer your life, you forfeit the opportunity to truly feel. You trade authentic connection for safety. You settle for a muted existence when you were born for a vibrant one. And that, my friend, is the most frightening illusion of all. The idea that a life hemmed in by cautious whispers is somehow better than a life lived in full, messy color. So let's drop the half-truths. Let's stop pretending that pain can be banished with a slogan. There is no fast track. There is no simple algorithm. There is only the raw, unfiltered journey of getting to know yourself, even the parts that ache, tremble, and scream, because it's in that unflinching gaze, when you finally see the raw contours of your own fear, that you discover something astonishing. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is your guide. It points to the places you need to heal, the places you need to grow. And once you shift your perspective, once you accept that your pain isn't a defect but a doorway, you'll realize the system never failed you. The system was simply incomplete. Now, brace yourself. Up next, we'll explore how to step off the sidelines of your own life and reclaim the power buried beneath that fear. And trust me, it's more incredible than any promise of instant positivity could ever be. Now that we see how our silence fuels their cruelty, we all hold responsibility. If these words resonate, subscribe to the channel. Your click could carry this truth to others, trapped in the same shadows we're finally daring to face together. You've already felt the tremor in your chest when shame tightens its grip. But beneath that panic lies something far deeper, an unspoken resident of your psyche that Carl Jung called the shadow. It's the part of you you've cast aside, the anger you deemed unacceptable, the envy you refused to admit, the vulnerability you erased in the name of staying strong. Imagine your soul as a room with a locked closet. Inside are all the emotions, memories, and impulses you've shoved in there because admitting them felt too dangerous. Yet, they never vanish. Instead, they fester in the dark, fermenting until they begin dictating your life from the shadows. And the unconscious? It's the houseplant you ignore, watering only the parts you like. Complexes are clusters of thoughts, feelings, and memories bound together by shared pain. An inferiority complex that whispers you're not enough, a betrayal complex that makes you jump at half-spoken words. You might think you're choosing every moment, but these complexes run on autopilot. They guide your tone of voice when you hesitate to speak up, nudge your feet to turn away when conflict arises, even script your dreams at night. They are ghosts in your machinery, and until you shine a light on them, they will keep pulling your levers. Here's the paradox nobody tells you. Your fear isn't the enemy to vanquish. It's the messenger you've sent away in shame. You've been fighting fear as though it were a roaring beast at the gate. But what if fear is actually a trembling child needing your attention? What if accepting that child, holding it in your arms rather than driving it away, is the only way to find your courage? Think of it like this. When a fire alarm goes off, you don't curse the alarm, you follow it to the fire. Fear is that alarm, screaming for you to see where the real danger lies, what corners of your heart remain unsafe. Step toward it, feel its weight in your chest. Notice if it's a lump, a hollowness, a shiver behind your ribs. Naming fear disarms it. When you call it by name, this is grief, or this is shame, or this is dread of rejection. You strip it of its authority. You're no longer hiding in the dark closet of your soul, hearing footsteps that don't exist. You are standing in the doorway with the lights on. The system of quick-fix positivity promised you victory if you could only smile wide enough, think happy enough, be happy enough. Yet happiness that rests on suppression of fear is brittle, like a house built without a foundation. Sooner or later, the ground will quake, and that house will collapse. Only when you've invited fear to the table, recognized its story as part of your own, does your foundation grow firm. And here is the most painful truth. The fear you've been avoiding is not a stray intruder. It's a pillar of your identity. Tear it away, and you risk bringing down the entire structure of who you are. That's why every time you try to annihilate fear, it fights back harder. It's defending its place, because it's been carrying the burden of your unmet needs, of experiences you never got to mourn, of vulnerabilities you never allowed yourself to feel. Your fear is part of your history, your survival story. Real growth doesn't dissolve that pillar. It transforms it. You bring fear into your conscious world. Let it speak its truth. I am here because of what happened. I am here because I needed to protect you. When you listen, fear begins to soften. Its edges round out. It no longer has to shout or lash out to be heard. In that moment, something profound happens. The power of the shadow dissipates. The chains forged by complexes loosen. You breathe, fully present, no longer haunted by phantoms of unacknowledged pain. This is the alchemy of acceptance. It's not a one-time act. It's a practice of turning toward the part of you that aches, sitting with it, understanding its language. Every time you do, you extend your territory of self-awareness. You build bridges where walls once stood. In the echoes of your own vulnerability, you discover a hidden strength, one that doesn't come from overpowering fear, but from befriending it. Stay with me as we move forward. Next, we'll explore concrete ways to illuminate your shadow, to map the landscape of your unconscious, and to transform fear from a jailer into a guide. Because once you recognize fear's true shape, you'll find the route out of the darkness and into the most authentic version of yourself. Here are concrete practices you can begin right now, tools to turn the raw energy of fear into a compass pointing you toward your own power. Read slowly, feel into each step, then let your body learn the path by doing. The stopped gaze technique. When you hear a cruel laugh aimed at someone vulnerable, your inner child, another person, you have two choices: look away or lock eyes. The moment you catch yourself averting your gaze, call a brief halt. Freeze your vision like a camera on pause. In that stillness, say silently, "This is mockery." Name it clearly in your mind. Feel how the shoulders rise, how the chest tightens. Then hold the paused scene for a count of 4 slow breaths. By interrupting the automatic recoil, you shred the spell of silence. You declare that mockery will not pass unseen. Over time, this simple pause rewires your reflexes. Instead of shrinking inside, you learn to see the wound before it festers. Practice whenever you witness injustice, on the screen, in a conversation, in your own self-judgment. 2. Tuning into your body's language. Fear lives in your tissues long after the triggering event has passed. Your jaw clenches, your belly knots, your heartbeat skips or thrums. To transform fear, you must first befriend these sensations. Begin by sitting comfortably and closing your eyes. As soon as you notice tension, a pinched muscle, a flutter in your chest, direct soft attention there. Breathe into that spot as if your inhale is a gentle wave washing over it. Exhale relief, letting the tension drift away like smoke. Don't judge or analyze, just be curious. What is this feeling trying to tell me? Perhaps it's warning you of danger you ignored. Perhaps it's holding a memory that needs you to pause and listen. This practice of body listening cultivates a compassionate awareness. You're no longer at war with your own somatic signals, but in dialogue with them. Mundram, alchemizing fear into forward motion. Once you've named the mockery and tuned into your body's message, you hold the spark of transformation. Fear's energy is the same force that fuels courage, only filtered through uncertainty instead of boldness. To reclaim that energy, identify one small step you can take toward what feels risky. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It might be opening your mouth to speak in a group, asserting a boundary, or simply stretching your arms overhead to remind your body it can expand. As you move, feel the tremble in your limbs. Honor it. Whisper to yourself, this tremble is life wanting to flow. Each time you act in spite of the nervous quiver, you lay down a new neural pathway, from freeze to flow. Keep the step manageable. Too big, and you'll trigger retreat. Too small, and you won't register the shift. Over days, these micro-victories weave into a tapestry of resilience. Nangavda, integrating shadow and strength. True empowerment emerges when you recognize that the parts of you you've hidden, shame, rage, longing, are the very source of your vitality. After each stopped gaze, after each body-based pause, and each tiny act of courage, take a moment to journal or speak aloud. Today I felt fear when, today I moved despite that fear by. Give your shadow a name or an image. Invite it to sit beside you. Ask it, what do you need right now? Listen without judgment. Your shadow may answer in a rush of images, memories, or raw emotion. Allow it expression. Paint it, cry it, shout it into a pillow if you must. Then offer it gratitude for protecting you. With this ritual of acknowledgement and thanks, you transform a hidden saboteur into an ally. Your fear no longer lurks in the dark, it stands in the light with you, pointing to where you need healing and growth. Building a community of truth seekers. No journey into the shadow is meant to be walked alone. After integrating each insight, find someone you trust, or this channel's comment section, and share a fragment of your experience. Witness someone else's courage, and let them witness yours. This act of naming and community dismantles isolation. It says, I see your pain, and I hold space for it. You're not alone. Each time you reflect your truth to another, you reinforce the practice of authenticity. Call to comment. If you're ready to meet your shadow and reclaim your power, write. My darkness is my power. In the comments. Let's build a circle of those brave enough to step into the light together. Notice how the mood shifts, almost imperceptibly, every few minutes, from quiet empathy to a pulse of defiance, then back to gentle reflection. This isn't accidental, it's deliberate. When your chest tightens, I soften the tone, inviting you inward. Just as you settle into that security, I pull you back to the edge with a startling insight, so your heart stirs again. At the end of one thought, I'll pause just before the resolution. You'll hear me say, and yet something even more unsettling waits, and then drift into the next moment. That pause, that moment of unfinished business, keeps your mind leaning forward, hungry for the answer. You almost cringe in anticipation. The tension crackles in the silence. 3 or 4 minutes later, I'll pivot sharply. What felt like a confession turns into a challenge. You've mastered hiding your shame, but what if shame could teach you strength? The contrast snaps your attention out of autopilot. Your subconscious registers, this isn't another bland monologue. This is active engagement. Then, as the story deepens, I'll hint at a revelation yet to come. By the end, you'll see that fear is your teacher. I won't immediately say how. Instead, I'll fold in a new layer, maybe a question you didn't expect, or an image so vivid it lodges in your mind. That incomplete circle pulls you along, like a spiral staircase you can't resist climbing. Every 3rd or 4th minute, I vary the cadence. Sometimes I speak softly, almost in a whisper, drawing you close. The next moment, my voice rises with urgency, demanding you witness the unspoken truths. These shifts break the uniformity that lulls you to sleep. And at each critical turn, I leave just enough unsaid. But there's a secret behind that tremor. Or, what happens when you refuse to look away? Those half-finished threads hang in the air, compelling you to stay until they're unraveling. Because deep down, you want the promise fulfilled, to learn how your pain, your fear, becomes the very guide you've been searching for.